Good evening, everyone. Look what time it is. It's time for me to put on the other playlist again. That's what time it is. There we go. I hope everyone is having a beautiful evening. And today will be a very special stream. Good evening, yes. Actually, I should do like proper hellos, I guess. So, kanji stream, yes. Hello, Glendale. I don't think I've seen you here before, so hi. Hey, Daniel. Hey, Hart. Jason. Welcome, everyone. So today, by the way, I'm not wearing headphones, so this is different, I guess. Today, it's all about kanji. And I've actually prepared a 7-page Google Doc for this. So we're gonna go through and we'll see how long it takes us. And then for the rest of the stream, we're probably just gonna hang out for a little bit and then call it a day. But for now, let's get started. Good evening. Yes, good evening, everyone. Good evening, good evening, good evening, good evening, good evening. Here's my Stephen Fry impression. Okay, so I want to start with we're gonna do some historical background first. Wait, I lost my layer, so I'm gonna make a new one. There we go. So we're gonna do history lesson, just a little bit though. It's gonna be the same kanji as the kanji. Yeah. Chikan. That's a bad one. We're gonna do a little bit of a history thing first. That will be quick though, just to give some historical context. Now, because I want to do Kauda, yeah, pretty much. So to give you sort of like an all-encompassing context, to put kanji and everything around it into context, I think it's important that we talk about the history of it. And so that the dictionary isn't completely idling, I'm just gonna put like interesting words there, I guess. Kakugo. Yeah, is everyone prepared? Let's put kanji there for now, and then we'll do some other stuff as I go through kanji. Now, historically, the first usages of kanji go back until about... It goes back until all the way around, like one or, like in the double-digit numbers, AD. So while the first recorded documents in kanji in Japan, and I'm talking about specifically kanji usage in Japan, of course. We're not talking about Chinese characters as they were used in China, okay? But in Japan, earliest records go back about 2,000 years. But that's pretty early. So a lot of strokes, yeah. So it's just very common, I guess. That's why it has that many strokes. Or that's why it's N5, I guess. Ah, nice. Okay. 1 second. Alright. So if I mute this. Ah. Roki-sanin, konbanwa. So the first real, like the agreed upon time period when kanji was actually integrated into Japan was during the Yamamoto area. No, during the reign of... Oh, here it says, I wrote this down by the way. I don't know this all by heart, so I'm gonna check my document. So the first period where the characters were properly introduced, when they shipped them over, was around 590 to 230 AD. So about 1,500 years ago. So we can do this, right? So kanji, first... That's not an I. So kanji was about first introed around 1,500 years ago. That's sort of like the agreed upon kind of time period. So about, 1,500 years ago is where for the first time, Japanese people were like, hey, we have these Chinese characters that we can import, right? And so they kind of started doing that. Let's see. Or is it just you can write the top of your kanji lesson, I guess? Wait, did you ask like a question related to that? 先日は、方針者が失礼を大丈夫ですよ。I think the whole Jukugo kanji itself. I'm not sure what question is being answered here, but oh well, they'll be fine. So you get these Chinese characters that are imported into Japan around 1,500 years ago. And it is really true that before that time, so about, 2,000 years ago and between that time period until they imported them, Japan didn't have a unified or no writing system at all. It's actually true. Like, if you look this up, it sounds surprising, I guess, because we have scripts that are so old here in Europe. For example, Latin characters all the way go back, like almost 2.5, 3,000 years, and then Greek goes back 3 and more thousand years, right? Doesn't have that many strokes. Yeah, Kana is carrying most of the weight, that's true. So yeah, so Japan didn't really have a writing system before that. Made in Japan, also called kanji. Yes, they are. There's a term for that. They're called, what are they called? I think they're called, wasei kanji, but there's also another way for them. Kanji made in Japan. There's like a name for it. I forgot. It's like wasei. It's not kanji. It's like something ji. Like hoji or something? No, hoji is different. Hoji is like kokuji. Yeah, I think kokuji. Wrong. This one, right? Yeah, kanji that originated in Japan. So yeah, there's some of these. For example, one of those kanji is hatake, if I'm not mistaken. I'm pretty sure hatake, like field, that's one of these. You can look up a bunch. You can look up a list of these, but hatake. So this one is kokuji. This kanji was created in Japan. Yeah. Exactly, kan means China. So hatake is kokuji. This kanji was created in Japan, as far as I know. And then another prevalent kokuji would be the one for hataraku. So hataraku, as far as I know, hataraku as well was created in Japan. It's not... This kanji doesn't really... or I'm not sure if it has been exported back into China, because that does happen. So there's some interesting things that happen sometimes where you get a loan word from a language that gets integrated into a different language and then kind of lost in its original language, and then sometimes they get imported back into the original language as like something slightly different. It's kind of a mess. So I'm not sure if China re-imports or ever re-imported these modified kanji, but yes, so there you can see it says kokuji. So yeah, hataraku is kokuji. It's definitely made in Japan. So you have this time period around 1500 years ago, and, they were starting to import these characters, and mostly monks at the time were trying to write stuff, so they had to have some sort of system. So there you go. Let me get through this here to my notes. Yeah, I don't want to go like too deep into the history of it, but I just want to give you some time period context. So about 1500 years ago, they started getting introduced. And then the writing, kind of like the word anime. Yeah, kind of, I guess. Anime. That's kind of true, I guess. Even though they called everything anime. Yeah, I mean, anime is just short for animation, right? So you just get animation. So at the time, what was mostly being used is called Kanbun. So you get a writing system called Kanbun. So written like this. Kanbun, right? So Kanbun basically means like it's text that is almost completely written in Chinese characters. So Kanbun. Whoops. Kanbun. Kanbun is, text in Japanese, but it's written in almost what looks like almost completely Chinese. But it's supposed to be like interpreted as Japanese. There's a bunch of like quirks to it that I'm gonna try and show you a little bit of. This is gonna be a big broad overview stream, and I think the parts where we're gonna dive a little bit deeper is the ones that are actually useful for learning the kanji. So like radicals, we're gonna dive a little bit deeper and stuff like that. A Chinese imports kanji, at least like bunka bunme. Oh yeah, I've heard these before. I think like bunka and bunme were like imported back into. So they import words. Certainly, words get important. Yeah. So we're gonna look at. I actually have examples prepared. So, kanbun used to work in a way where basically you would have Chinese characters and Chinese texts, and then people would annotate these things. Let me copy this image. Copy. And then, can I paste it in here? Why not? Why not? Maybe if I... image options... Paste without formatting. No, I would want to have it... this is no good. How do I... Damn it. Maybe if I drag it? No. I want to show you this. You know what? I'm just gonna basically cheat. No worries. We can do it. I'm just gonna take a screenshot. There we go. If I can't copy the image, I shall just screenshot it instead. Here. So this is kind of like a little example that I can show you. So this is Kanbun. It's like an example of Kanbun. I'm gonna make it a little bit larger too, so you can kind of read it. I hope you can kind of see that. So this is like an example of what Kanbun used to look like. Broke, don't create many homophones. Woke, make different characters for pitch. Yes. 50,000 different characters. It's about me, yes. Is it? I'm not sure. Oh, yeah. You're right, it's in there. So, what they did after a while, so this is annotated Kanbun, and you can see that it's annotated because it has these notes, right? These katakana annotations. So this is a thing that used to happen where you would basically get a sentence that is kind of like Chinese. This is basically, I don't know much about Chinese, but it's like basically pretty close to Chinese, I guess. Though I'm not sure if Chinese is SOV. So it's Japanese. It's meant to be Japanese, but they didn't really have much other than Chinese characters to write it. So you have ame furu, and then they basically just added like these okurigana katakana notes to them, you know. My study Kanbun. Yes, it must be a big pain. I know, like, Japanese high school students still learn to read Kanbun, and then it looks kind of like this. So you have ame furu, like rain falls, and then like haru sari, natsu kitaru, and like kitaru is like an old version of kuru, right? So you get like kitaru, and all of these. So you would basically have to know which words to use, right? So because they just used like some kanji, and then they were like trying to sort of use these non-Japanese symbols that they just got to put Japanese sentences on a piece of paper, and it was pretty tricky at the time. But that's how Kanbun worked. So you basically try to approximate Japanese with Chinese as much as you could, right? And that's why from that time is where you get a lot of like today's ateji from. We're gonna talk about ateji later, but you get a lot of these things where you like, why did they choose this kanji? Well, sometimes they just chose it because it sounded about right. And then sometimes they chose it because like it meant kind of the right thing. It's a bit of a mess, okay? And then you also had, of course, words like kitaru were pre-existing, right? So this here, sorry, this is furu. So like kitaru here, which is kuru, these were pre-existing Japanese words, right? So it gets even more complicated if you have this pre-existing language and you're trying to like put this new system sort of on top of it. What's funny is they annotated no, not today in Chinese, sometimes no for not to be cool. Oh, for to be cool. Well, this character here is still sometimes used as no. So like I've seen it in family graves and stuff. This is still today the way you would write the particle no in kanji. So you can actually look this up and you'll see it here. Yeah, so this or possessive no also sometimes still used with this. It's pretty rare though, not really very common anymore. But yeah, definitely this is sort of like a leftover from the good old days, the good old Kanbun days basically. You also have, this is where you get a lot of like these from, where you have, for example, this character often can mean like kore or whatever, or koko and stuff like that. You get all kinds of weird things out of it. There you go. Sometimes Ryunosuke just popped the top. Yes, there you go. Ryunosuke is like a name. Only PC kids will remember. The good old Kanbun days. Well, Japanese high school kids remember because they're still getting taught Kanbun, much to their dismay, much to their chagrin, which is a fancy word that is, if I'm saying it right. But let's move on. So just to give you an idea you can dig really deep into this, and I'm not an expert because I've never... So I went on a bit of a like Wikipedia research thing because I knew a lot of these things, but not really that precisely. So I did some superficial research to just confirm the things that I already thought were true, or like not to tell you anything that's just obviously wrong, okay? Okay, so host, arigato. Thank you for the host. Because I just don't want to tell you anything that turns out to be completely wrong. But I also, this is not meant to be like a Japanese history in-depth course or whatever. But I think it's important to put stuff like this in context, and for putting it in context, you need some history, right? You need to know a little bit of where it came from and how it came to be. But let's actually move on from this now onto the Kana, okay? Because this I think is well, it doesn't matter. This, I think, is a very interesting part of the history. So you can see we have these kanji. We can sort of write Japanese like a little bit. We can and we cannot. It's all kind of okay. But then they were like, well, it'd be really great if we had a system, a syllabary, right? It'd be really great if we had like a syllabary system. And then, so I talked about how hiragana and katakana were made in the past. And I actually said that katakana was made before hiragana. And that is still kind of true, but I found out that they basically got created in parallel. So there were two systems of writing that got created almost in parallel. And one of them, basically, so hiragana, if you look at them, so first of all, you had this intermediate system called mangyogana, okay? Mangyogana. And these mangyogana were basically cursive kanji, okay? Mangyogana. Okay, you can see them here. There's also a very, very famous, there's a very famous book of poems called the Mangyoshu, I think. And that's where for the first time, I think Mangyogana were used almost exclusively to write that stuff. I would have to like confirm that, but there's definitely this Mangyoshu, like this very famous collection of poems. And Mangyogana is like early Japanese syllabary composed of Chinese characters used phonetically. So what you get is something that looks a little bit like this. So let me make this larger so you can see it. It's basically a little bit like this, right? So you get the kanji over here, right? So we have kanji, right? You can see here are the kanji, like ang is safety, and it starts with an a, right? So this is already where you can tell how they got it. They looked at this character and they were like, okay, we're gonna pick this one. And what is this one read as? Well, it's read as like a or an or whatever. It has like an a sound in it. And then they were like, okay, how do we write it a bit quicker? So these up here, you can't really read them that well, but they're different writing styles. This one here, I think, is called, was it Kosho? I'm not sure, but they're different styles of calligraphy, and they get progressively more cursive as you go into this direction until you eventually arrive at what is basically modern hiragana. Okay, so you took this kanji and you started writing it more and more cursively. You can see shortcuts being taken, right? So you can see how, like, this stroke from over here and this stroke get combined into one by just sort of connecting them like this and curving them a little bit until you end up eventually with what is like a hiragana a, right? There you go. So that's how you get the hiragana. And katakana aren't all that different. So you can see these different ones and which ones are which. And if you know some readings, you know that like this one is very commonly read as i, and this one is like the u and uchu, right? Uchujin and whatnot. So you get u. This one is, well, this one usually would also be e in modern Japanese, I think. But, you know, maybe at the time was a, or it has like a secondary a reading. I'm not quite sure. And then ka, of course, still commonly used as ka today. It's kuwawaru to add, still today read as ka. And it's onyomi. So kuwawaru. Let's look at it. See, it's still commonly read as ka. So that's where you get the ka from. Ka is an interesting one because it turns out that the katakana ka also comes from this character. It's the same. Hiragana, they're not all the same, but katakana, hiragana and katakana don't all originate from the same kanji. So there's some, they're very different. For example, a, you'll see just in a second, is completely different. Completely different kanji made katakana a than made hiragana a. right? So that's why they were created basically in parallel. So while monks were working on making the katakana, someone else was working on making the hiragana. And the interesting thing is also that I have this written here. When hiragana was made, basically as this cursive style of writing kanji first, and like this intermediary period. Also before I move on, so the mangyo-gana are very close to what you can see here. So this is kind of what mangyo-gana would look like in the middle here. They're very cursive, really hard to read. If you look up mangyo-gana and Google image search, you will see very difficult to read, very cursive, very connected. The strokes are very different. So like a kanji that would have 5 or 10 strokes usually might be reduced to just 1 or 2 or 3 sometimes. It's very tricky, takes a lot of practice to read. So let me show you now a more complete table that I have down here, which is called the Kana development chart. And it's a very nice picture. It's one of my favorites. I like showing this picture. Incredibly nice picture. So let's put that in here. And I'm just gonna scale that up all the way so you can see it properly. Here we go. Now this is the Kana development chart. And here's actually all of them. You can see all of them here. You can see the hiragana on the left and the katakana on the right, and you can see what kanji they came from. So the process of making hiragana was a bit more involved with this middle stage of the mangyo-gana in the middle. So these mangyo-gana have like this middle stage of how you got from the kanji here to the kana eventually, right? Katakana, a bit more simple. The process of making katakana was for the most part just a matter of taking one part of a kanji, or like a very simplified version thereof, and just saying that that's it, okay? So you can already see here a bunch of things that should stand out to you if you know some kanji. For example, you can look at the readings, okay? So let's look at some reading like onna. Onna has a reading me, so you can see how they got the me from onna, because it's just one of the readings. That's all they basically wanted. They just picked that. There might be deeper stories behind which one was picked why, but as far as I know, it was mostly about the reading, and they just took whatever looked right at the time. Again, mi, utsukushi, right? A very common reading of utsukushi is mi, even to this day, even now. And then on the katakana side, you can see similar patterns, like this one here, so and so. Like these are still very related. Here at what I told you about ka, right? You can see that this, which is really a coincidence, I think, is actually the same that made the hiragana and the katakana. I think this may be the only one. I'm not sure. I haven't checked, but I think this may be the only overlapping one. I'd have to check. No, there's some more. You have re is the same. So there's some, but there's certainly the minority. Yeah, he is the same. So there you go. Hey is really, yeah. Hey just also looks the same, which is interesting. Yeah, and you can see like with the katakana, you can really see how similar they are, where you really just sort of took an element of the kanji and were like, okay, that's kind of it now. That's what we're going with. So there you go, and that's how you get hiragana and katakana. That's how you get the Japanese syllabary. Is that not amazing? I love this chart so much. The person side design just lazy. Yes, that's what you get for like lazy design. What I love about this stuff is how weird it is, because you can obviously tell this was like a system made because of the inconvenience of having imported characters that aren't really part of your own language, and they had to make it work, basically. 気にしたことなかった面白いです。そうですか？いいんですね。You can really tell they had this system that people had to work with, and people weren't really happy that, and they had to like work their way around it. And you know, so they created the syllabaries, they created the kana. And then also another interesting thing is, I have written it down here. So eventually, when you get from mangyo-gana into hiragana, it was also called onnade. Onnade, like the female hand. Which is true. Hiragana at the time when it was created was mostly meant to be a thing accessible to women and used by women. Of course, that's not at all the case anymore today, right? And men tended to use like katakana when it was invented, like the monks mostly, primarily. And women tended to use this new hiragana thing that they made. Oh, okay, we're finding a bunch of ones that are the same now. I've never actually looked at the chart this much, so I guess it's about... It must be... Well, with all of these, it must be maybe like I guess it's like a 30-70, right? 30% overlap, 70% uniqueness, something like that. How many can you find? It's a challenge. Oh, it's the same. Oh, really? Damn it. Okay, you can tell how well I looked at this chart, apparently, because it turns out not all that well. That's not the point, though. That's not the point. You're doing well, but it's not the point. Also, another interesting thing is that when Kana were first created, their other name was Mana. Mana. So you get... Mana is another name for kanji as opposed to Kana. Oh, there. Printed style. Kanji. Oh, yes. Sorry, kanji. So I got it confused there. So back then, when they created the Kana, then kanji were basically referred to as Mana, which is the true name, right? The true name. And Kana, if you know the characters, basically means like provisional thing, right? Provisional name, because can I find it? Wait, I have to probably click on it here. Ka. Yeah. Ka basically means temporary or like interim. So they basically gave Kana the name of sort of this like provision, like temporary middle ground thing that isn't the real kanji, right? So that's where you get Mana and Kana from. There you go. Another interesting thing. There's so many interesting things. We're never gonna end. Having fun. Have the kanji that used to be obsolete pronunciations changed? You mean... I'm a bit confused. You mean the kanji that used the... Oh, the obsolete pronounce... Yes, they have changed. I can't really go too deep into that because I just don't know. What I know is that there's like certain things. Let me think. I think most occurrences of... So what I can tell you is that all characters that like used to be a verb ending that is used, that today is basically so there used to be a whole group of verbs that were ending in and all of these basically turned into verbs. I think they were still pronounced like more or less. Another thing that I can tell you is that the W characters, like you know, if I can find them. So this guy and this guy, they were basically pronounced as I and I, right? So they were not real. There wasn't really a W in there as far as I know. They basically were used as I and I. I can also tell you that the what I've seen is that old teiru form basically used to be written with this guy, right? So that's what I've seen. There's a bunch of stuff in there. Very interesting stuff. I recommend to you, if you're interested, go on Imabi. By the way, guys, new command, okay? New command, guides, if you wanna see a bunch of guides. So these are, oh gosh, okay, never mind. I'm gonna have to change that. I forgot to put, okay, never mind. Ignore that one. Wait. I feel bad. That didn't work. That did not work. I'm sorry. Let me fix that. I'll fix that right now so that it's not broken. I forgot that there's no... Yeah, well, close enough. I know, right? I'm gonna have to put spaces. I forgot. Listen, it happens to the best of them. HTTP space. And then here, space. Oh. Well, it's fine. I think they don't recognize double spaces anyways. Full width spaces. Try it again. Someone try it again. Try guides. And then it should work. I hope it works. Oh dear God, I hope it works. But it should work now. I think I fixed it. Is it separate links now? It's separate links now. Okay. So you can... These are 3 separate links. No, I mean it works. There's just no way of... Did Taikim work? Not found. Wait. No, it works. They're working now. They're working. Okay, good. They're working. You forgot one. Which one did I forget? I might edit if I forgot it. Maybe I should put like the name of each one in front of the link or something. I don't know. The message is already long enough. The first one. Yeah, you can't click it though. Damn it! Alright, I'll fix it eventually. Oh no! Okay. You know what? I'll fix that later. I don't think this is now the time. But yeah, check out Imabi if you want to read. Imabi has a whole selection of topics about classical Japanese. And it's one thing that I still haven't really gotten into, but I'll do it eventually. It's very interesting though. Oh gosh, we're not progressing that fast. I really thought I would be faster today. Okay. I think that's kind of good for our history background. So remember, we're still about 1,000 years ago. 1,000 or even more, right? About 1,000 to a few hundred years ago. Now, let's move into something else that is also historic, but a different topic. Next topic will be, after we've now covered kanji, the import of kanji and the kana and how they got made, let's talk about readings. Now, this is completely different. Readings are very interesting. We're gonna talk about I'm gonna give you like a little intro here. We're gonna talk about let me count. Kuram-san, konbanwa. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're gonna talk about 5 different topics here, and we're gonna start with onyomi. Okay, so let me show you onyomi. Onyomi. Onyomi reading, Chinese derived reading of a kanji. Onyomi is the reading that was given to a kanji when it came to Japan based on, and that's the important part, based on the pronunciation that it had in China at the time. Now, that was 1,500 years ago. Chinese used to sound a lot different back then, which is why onyomi today sounds so different from what they are in China today. Zuritor, thank you for the follow. Welcome to Game Grammar. So, you know, you get these imported characters and you have these people, these Chinese people. Some onyomi, yeah, some are still close. I mean, not everything has changed, right? Chinese is still Chinese. Even though that's, obviously, but linguistically, that's an interesting phrase to say, I think. So it's like, how much does a language has to evolve? And it's like still the same language, but anyways, you have these readings that they sort of slapped on there. And it turns out, so it's pretty interesting. For example, you can see that we've had characters created in Japan that still have onyomi, which you're thinking like, but that doesn't make sense, Eve, because when they were created in Japan, why did they give them onyomi? Well, there's different reasons for that. For example, in the case of hataraku, so let me write hataraku down for you real quick. So hataraku looks like this, right? That's the sound you have to do when writing kanji. That's not a very nice stroke. That's better. I think I got the stroke order a little bit wrong here. Hataraku, okay? Hataraku has a onyomi. What's the onyomi of hataraku? Someone. Quick before I show you. Hataraku. I'm just gonna look it up. I'm gonna take a sip of my coffee while you figure it out. Does anyone have their coffee, by the way? That's very important. I'm not sure it's even possible to learn about kanji without coffee. Do. Yeah, it is do. Turns out it is do. And the reason for that is something that we'll talk about in much more detail in a bit. But for now, let me just tell you, hataraku, one of these kanji where the reading was inherited from the kanji it was based off. So you basically have an inherited reading. To work there, do blah blah blah. Okay, so do basically inherited its reading from this part over here, which is also read as do. If you know, this is ugoku, right? And so ugoku also has the onyomi do. So this is something that happens unexpectedly much. This is something called keisei kanji, which means a kanji with a phonetic and a mimetic, I think. Mimetic, like, well, a phonetic and a meaning part. There's like a proper name for it. But we'll look at keisei kanji because they're my favorite part. They're my favorite kind of kanji, are keisei kanji. This is really nerdy, by the way. If someone just joined in right now, they're like, I wonder what fun Eve is up to. And I come out here with like keisei kanji with phonetic and meaning parts, and that they're super fun. So you know what you're in for the next hour. But this is a thing that happens a lot, where you basically have readings that are inherited. So this is an inherited reading from this left, no, sorry, from this right radical. We're going to talk about radicals as well once we get to it. So this is a thing that happens. Now, another interesting thing is there's actually different kinds of onyomi that you can classify. And I'm going to have to read off my notes here, but there is actually 4 different kinds. You have goon, which is readings from the northern and southern dynasties of China during the 5th and 6th century. So maybe I can find that in the dictionary so you can see it on screen. Goon. Or maybe not. No, I think I'll be able to find it there. So this is, you have goon is one of the categories. So these are readings you get from, from the 5th and 6th century Chinese and like different regions. I'm sorry, I didn't prepare examples for these, sadly, but I'm sure you can find them online if you look that up. I just wanted to show you how much there is to know, basically, or how deep this stuff is. So this is just a big overview. There's goon. Then the next category is called Kangon. Kangon is it's hard to say. Kangon. Kangon is the Kan reading, or Han reading. This is based on Tang Dynasty Chinese. There you go. So you have these. And also, by the way, this is the reason why some kanji have multiple completely different onyomi, right? So when you're wondering, like, why does this kanji have so many onyomi? Because for those of you that know Chinese, or at least a little, I'm pretty sure in Chinese this doesn't happen, at least not much at all. Most characters in Chinese have kind of one agreed upon way to read them. There's not such a big mess as in Japanese. In Japanese, you have these different readings that were attached during different periods and then made, like, merged, and it's a big mess. It's like a, it's basically like a not very well maintained Git repository where people just pull and push and merge to their heart's content. That's basically how it works. So you have Kannon, which is the Han reading. The next one is called Ton. Ton, if I can find it. I should probably spell like... How is it spelled? That's a good question. I can probably either spell like this, or, well, Ton. I guess it's spelled like this. Yeah, there it is. Found it. Ton. Git repository. Yeah. Ton is a Tang reading based on the Song dynasty. By the way, I do not know Chinese history. So if you do know Chinese history, this is probably hugely interesting for you because you know what that means if they write Song dynasty and later Chinese. That's the best analogy for Japanese I've ever heard. You're welcome. This is the kind of stuff why you tune into Game Grammar, right? Otaku. Kanji otaku. それはな. And then the last group, like, remember I said there were 4. The last group is called Kanyon, which is the popularly accepted on reading of a kanji as opposed to those derived from Chinese. So I guess this is just sort of what people used to, like, do with it. So let's see. There. This is an interesting category. These are customary readings. We love otaku. 難しい. Readings which are mistaken or changed readings of the kanji that have become accepted into the Japanese language. In some cases, they are actual readings that accompanied the character's introduction to Japan, but do not match how the character should be read according to the rules of character construction and pronunciation. So these are basically mistaken readings. And if you learn or look up even a basic level of linguistics, you'll quickly come to realize that mistakes is a lot of what language evolution is. Of course, not all of it. A lot of it is like sometimes even directed and purposeful. Sometimes it has to do with just changes in the time. But a lot of what language evolution is, or how like stuff gets changed, often it can be mistakes that are mistakes when they're first made, but become so popular and so generally accepted that it's basically the norm now. So with language, an interesting thing is it's not like math where, well, I mean, to a degree, I guess we used to believe things are different, but with other fields, we used to think that one thing was just right and then it turned out to be wrong, like in biology or whatever. But I think with language, the interesting thing is things are right, then they get changed, or then they get used wrong, then they're wrong, And when they're wrong for long enough, they become right again. Isn't that kind of weird? I think that makes language really unique. And that's completely accepted and completely natural. Whereas in other fields, we wouldn't say it like that. We wouldn't have this conception of it. We would say, we used to think it was different and that was wrong. And now we know better. Like with physics, we know better now. We know that there's like, we know that the atoms are made up of quarks and stuff like that. We know that it has electrons and we can count them, right? So we would say we were wrong when we said that, the atom looked such and such, right? But with language, it's more like, well, it was right at the time, and then it was wrong, and then it became right again. And that's kind of interesting. I don't even know who Wittgenstein is. Is he like a linguist? Oh man, I'm such a hobby linguist. I'm not even a hobby linguist. I'm just something. So that's my big overview about onyomi. There are a lot of mistakes, but good enough for our world. Yeah, so like you still have like things that are wrong, but I think like the conception of, not the conception, but the idea of them it's different. Like once we figure out that something was wrong, we would just accept it as wrong. Boy. Only works in human-sized world. Yeah, there you go. Philosopher who focused on the nature of language. Nice. Well, there you go. Next topic will be, you guessed it, kunyomi. Let's talk about kunyomi. Kunyomi not as grandiose, actually. Kunyomi is pretty straightforward. So if I show you kunyomi on screen, sorry, today I'm not writing all that much on the blackboard. I'm not sure if I should. I'm not sure because I think it's faster if I just show you here. Kunyomi. I can't spell. Kunyomi. Let's go. 50% explaining. Yeah, I'm sorry. Like again, I've never done linguistics like at a school or at a university. I almost did, but I didn't. So kunyomi is what's generally accepted as the kun reading or the native Japanese reading. So kunyomi is a reading based off a Japanese word that existed at the time. Any word, take any word. Yamamoto kotoba. Interesting. Yeah. So sorry, I was reading my notes there. You basically have these pre-existing Japanese words because again, Japanese existed. There was just no writing system for it. And they picked the kanji, like maybe they picked ware, like I, right? They picked this. I don't know, right? They picked this probably, and they were like, well, waga, ware, something like that. And that was probably like a pre-existing word. And they were like, okay, let's assign one of these, or a bunch of them, as you can see. Let's assign a bunch of these to the kanji. Let's just do that and agree upon it. And this I'm not so sure about, but I would assume that the agreeing upon part is the reason why we have this many. Because people, again, Git repository couldn't agree and just kind of did a lot of things, and then eventually people were using the same characters for so many different things, and it was probably a bit of a mess, so that in the end they didn't have much choice than to associate, in some cases, many different words with one kanji, and the other way around, many nuances of the same word with different kanji as well, right? So, there you go. You should have changed your cursor to a chalk icon. Oh, that would have been a good idea. Yeah, maybe I'll do that at some point. Okay. And that's kunyomi, okay? So I don't think kunyomi is very straightforward. It's basically just pre-existing old Japanese words that were attached to the kanji. A little extra reading thing is the nanori. Nanori is name reading. So nanori. Nanori is a name readings of kanji. So these are kind of a doozy, okay? So for example, let's look up a specific kanji. Let's look at one that I happen to know is, right, hun, right? Like bun or fun or whatever. Fumi, sometimes also read as fumi. So this one, if we look it up, if I go to the kanji info, there you go. So this one here, right, this is the kanji for sentence or literature or all that. And in names, it will usually be read as fumi. So, for example, you get like names. Jesus, again. Can't you? Oh, wait. No. Oh, sorry. Volpe. Such a long message. Sorry, we had like a bot yesterday. I just hope you're not. But yeah, no, Florida found YouTube blog. Help supplement. Oh, well, there you go. Sorry, I kind of jumped to the conclusion that you were a bot because of what happened, not yesterday, but on Sunday. Well, welcome. I'm glad to have you here. I'm glad you enjoy the YouTube stuff. So we got Nanori, and Nanori are a big pain in the butt if you're trying to. I don't think it is. If you're not a bot, raise your hand. If it is, then I'm starting to lose my mind, but I don't think it is, because he's not offering me anything. Usually the bots are like offering stuff and wanting you to click on a link or something. Yeah, there you go. No worries, no, like, don't get this the wrong way. You're allowed to post long messages, it's fine. It just happened, and like I talked to a bot for 5 minutes. I felt really stupid about it, so there you go. But you're fine, don't worry about it. Actually, I'm sorry for falsely accusing you of botness. Now that's nice, see right there? That's some nice, those are some nice arms. Gishinanki, yeah, there you go. Always be suspicious of everything. What a nice Yojijukubo. Suspicion will raise boogies. Once you suspect something, everything else will look suspicious. There you go. Do you know if the unification of Japan impacted kanji standards, or were there things preset before? That's a good question. No, I do not know. No, they're not that good. I'm just stupid. It's just the bot came in here and like posted this message that said like, hey, I'm so glad I found you. And it was like, so glad I found you, Game Grammar, or something. I want to make something for you and blah, blah, blah. It looked kind of real. And then the second message was kind of more obvious. There was like a second message that was obviously a bot. And then I still didn't catch on. And then chat told me, and then I felt stupid. But there you go. But yeah, so we learned the Yojijukugo, so I guess that's good. That was basically my thing about Nanori. Nanori are a big annoyance if you're trying to learn names. So like you have names like Fumio, I think, right? Like Fumio. Fumio is a pretty common name, I guess. Fumio would be spelled like this. It would be spelled with this kanji, and then you would just add like the male character next to it, like this. That would be like Fumio, right? Fumio. Wow, no, that's not even an O. Fumio, something like that. Adding that to my nice. So if you're trying to learn names, you'll quickly realize that it's a big pain because Nanori are really weird, and they sometimes are completely different than any of the other readings, and the reason why names are a certain way, that's a big thing. So we're not gonna get into it. We'll look at it a bit more in a bit when we look at types of kanji readings, but not right, or types of categorizing kanji basically, but not right now. Let's move on to a more special class of characters. So you have what is called Gikun and Jukujikun. And that's a very special kind of reading. Again, Gikun, so this one. Gikun is reading of a kanji by meaning. To give you an example, Gikun non-standard kanji are used generally for effect. Yeah, so Gikun is when a kanji is used that is usually not used to represent that word at all for effect. I have an example right here. So, for example, it would be Gikun usage, or Gikun reading would be if I wrote this kanji. Right, if I write this kanji, who recognizes this kanji? What is this? Tell me what it is, right? Gikun reading would be if I wrote this kanji and I read it as like samui or something like that, right? So if I read this one here as like samui, right? That would be Gikun reading. That would be like for dramatic effect, basically, or for effect, I would read it like this. That's a very interesting thing. This happens a lot. It's winter, yeah. So this would be, normally this would be fuyu, right? So normally you would read this as fuyu. Fuyu, winter, Gikun. This happens a lot in manga, actually. You'll see this a lot in manga, where you have some kanji, say you have like Tokyo, for example. You have the kanji Tokyo here. Tokyo. And next to it, the furigana will read as Koko. So you see this in manga sometimes, where usually what they mean is the kanji. They mean the kanji, but they're saying Koko, okay? This is something that catches a lot of people off guard. when they start reading like manga. Oh yeah, but that's all. So rampu, yeah, rampu. There you go. That's like another like special case where kanji is used to describe English words. So yeah, you get rampu and gasu, or like another common one is garasu, right? Garasu, which is glass. You can see it has these kanji here, which are not read like that at all. What is this? Raibaru. Oh yeah, koitekite. Interesting. Kotekite. Is that kotekite? Maybe something like that. So this is something that, even though the term for it is a bit obscure, gikun, in actuality, you see it quite a lot. You see it happen quite a lot, where characters are taken for their meaning, and then some word is basically slapped on top as a reading, okay? So there you go, that's gikun. And then there's another one that happens. I hope you have ingrained gikun into your mind. There's another one that happens called jukujikun. Jukujikun. Jukujikun is, here you can see it's special kanji readings. These are usually when you have, as the name says, you have jukuji, and you give them some special reading. The most prominent jukujikun that I assume you all know is, can anyone think of one? Think of a jukuji, so a compound word, a multi-kanji word, so usually two. So think of a two kanji word where a irregular reading is attached. Some very common ones. So aisatsu, apparently aisatsu is one. I didn't even know that. But yeah, so aisatsu would be one. I think the most common one would be kyo, or like kino, ashita, all of these, right? So the time words, the kino, kyo, 違うかも。知らないんですね。I don't know. I'm not sure. 大人 I think is one, is jukujikun. I think 大人 counts. The words from where a story happened, Meiji period, those things are common. Oh, interesting. Interesting. Yeah, so you get these jukujikun. Samma. Yeah, I think samma for sure, right? So let me delete all of this stuff, and let's get rid of kanbun as well. So you get words like kyo, right? So usually kyo would be read as like konnichi. It still is. Sometimes konnichi is, that's the kanji for konnichi, because the reading of this character here, ima, is kon, and this is nichi, so you get konnichi. But of course, the reading we're all most familiar with is probably kyo, which is not standard at all. Oh yeah, hatachi, right? 20歳 would be like hatachi. Another example of jukujikun, ashita or kino, all of these, tomorrow, today, yesterday. All of these are examples of jukujikun, which is special readings given to specific jukuji that are... So the difference between gikun and jukujikun would be that gikun is used like once and is usually used for artistic purposes, chosen by the author. And jukujikun is a proper reading given to those words or those kanji that actually sticks, right? That is commonly accepted, right? So that's kind of the difference, because we're not going to read kyo any other way. That's the accepted reading of kyo is this, and these are the accepted kanji. That's the difference between something like gikun and jukujikun, I guess, right? So again, gikun mostly gets added for effect on the spot, right? Shiwasu. Okay. December. Oh, nice. Special meanings for them. Yeah, so hands. So the kanji te has a bunch of meanings that are interesting. It can mean like, sometimes it can refer to like a person. Sometimes it can refer to a means or a method of doing something. It's quite interesting, the different usages that te finds as a rival. Yeah. Okay. And last but not least, we have ateji. Ateji is kind of the opposite of like jukujikun, where instead of the meaning, you focus on the reading. Okay? A friend showed me that in the Fate series, 約束された勝利の剣 is Excalibur. Yeah, that probably happens a lot. Yeah. There you go. That would be an example of gikun, I guess. That would be gikun for like a whole phrase. So that's interesting. Last but not least, let's talk about ateji. So sometimes, and I'm guilty of this myself, but I have now learned the error in my ways. Sometimes people refer to this as ateji, but it's not really. Yeah, so you can see in the dictionary it says kanji. The second entry says kanji used for their meaning irrespective of reading. So it's not wrong to say that this is ateji, but it's like linguistically not really that correct either. Because that's where you get terms like jukujikun and gikun, okay? Where you take them for the meaning specifically. And ateji is basically the opposite, where you take a character simply for its reading, and the meaning has not much of an influence on why it was chosen. This would be a time where you can type your favorite ateji words in chat. I think the common ones are such like sushi. So sushi is a very, very popular example for ateji. Sushi. There you go. You have longevity and shi o tsukasadoru for govern, like to rule. No, like has nothing to do with fish. Has nothing to do with sushi whatsoever. This is ateji. It even has the little ateji tag. How handy is this? Thank you, Tangorin. What is this? I think isn't that the name of some game or something? I don't know. Sushi. Sushi. Tempura. Tempura ka. Yeah, that makes sense because I know ten and ra, but I didn't know pu. There you go. Tempura. That's what. So this is the official, like officially, this is what ateji is. Ateji, the act of taking a kanji for its reading, and then making a word with it. That is like, or using it for a Japanese word that's pre-existing. That's what ateji is. So again, in sushi, right? You can see we have pop, 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 pop. If I can, I think. Oops. There we go. Sushi, right? And she would be tsukasadoru. Sushi. They really just basically took the su reading from this and the shi reading from this, and we're like, that's good enough. And you get a lot of these. Those officially are what ateji is. Again, sometimes this is mistakenly referred to as ateji. Well, I call it mistakenly. It's more like linguists would probably frown at you if you did it, or like people on specific Discord servers. If you want to be really, really correct, then this wouldn't be ateji. But this, however, would be ateji. Okay, but this wouldn't. That's the most correct way of going about it, as I have learned. Yes, the country names are almost completely ateji. But it's interesting with the country readings. What's really interesting with the country readings is, let's look at one, for example, America. So, America. So there may be a few people now here saying, Eve, you silly man, America is written in katakana, which is true. But it has kanji. These kanji were mostly used in the pre-war times. Again, there was a kind of a time where everything was written in kanji, right? Used in a person's name. Yeah, so that you also get this. You get ateji used in a person's name, and then they will use like narori as ateji and like weird things. Or also when, say, you have a name. So for example, if I would write my name as like, you know, I don't know. If I were to go and write my name as this and be like, hey, you know, I write this on my like on my card or whatever, and be like, call me Ibu, this would be a case of ateji basically, because I'm using these characters for their reading, and they happen to mean Ibu, which is kind of close to my name, right? So it kind of works, Ibu, right? So, but it has nothing to do with me. It's just kind of a thing. So to go back to America, as you can see, it uses these characters. So Asia, A. By the way, Asia called A because this is how you spell like Asia or whatever with these characters. This is what came to signify Asia. What's interesting about this, and you can see me or be, ame, ri, ka. Again, very standard readings here, America. The interesting thing here is that it almost had this reverse effect, where it used to be pure ateji. It used to be purely, well, we chose these because they sound right, okay? And then it had this sort of reverse effect where now that they chose these characters, all of a sudden, one of them, namely Kome or Be or however you want to refer to it. I think I'm doing it in the wrong order, but whatever. No, I think it's like this and then these last. I forgot the stroke order for Kome, but it's fine. So Kome came to mean America because that was the one that was chosen. So it had this sort of reverse effect now, like changing a part of the meaning or changing a part of the general consensus what this kanji signified. So all of a sudden, basically due to a random selection of some ateji, now Kome came to mean America, and it will continue to be used as such. So Beikoku, yeah, Beigun, yeah. So you get all these words Beikoku, and like also what I find interesting then is that Beikoku sounds like it's a lot older, but based on this logic, it can't be, right? Because the ateji would have to have been there first for the meaning to even be associated, to then in return be used as the Beikoku character, right? Am I right? Because that would make sense else. Hey Elias, just got here. How did you learn kanji when you started? We'll talk about that later, once we get into radicals, I think. So for now, I'm almost done with readings. We're gonna real quick go look at classifications or different ways of lists of kanji, and then we're gonna go into what is next. Yeah, and then we're gonna go into radicals, and that's where it gets really interesting in terms of learning them. So yeah, but as I was saying, like Beikoku sounds really old, but it based on that logic, it cannot be, because you would have to have the ateji first for it to even be associated with America in the first place. There you go. The more you know. Let's move on. So this is ateji. This is what I'm going to say about ateji. So let's get rid of all this now, and let's move on to some different kanji lists. Okay, this is just real quick to give you an overview. In total, estimates for how many kanji there are. There's no. So let me say this at the start. There is no official list. The Japanese government, and that goes for the Chinese government as well, by the way, they don't hold an official list of what is and isn't considered a kanji. But there are like agreed upon dictionaries that are very, very extensive, that like basically contain most of what is considered to be valid, right? Even though a real comprehensive list doesn't exist. At least not one that is agreed upon, because there's just too many, and it's kind of silly. And there's so many that it's silly. In China, there's even more, but officially, it is estimated that you have between 50,000 and 85,000 characters that could be considered kanji. Okay, so you have about this many that could that could be called kanji characters. Between 50 and 85,000 are estimates. Obviously, you don't know. Like no one knows this many. I think the Kanwa Daijiten was it? I think Kanwa Daijiten is the very large kanji dictionary. Contains about 50,000 kanji in 12 volumes. A bit more than that, like 51,000. Something like that. And then like historians think that if you dig deep, you can probably up this number to about 85, something like that. Obviously that is silliness, and no one knows that many kanji. Even the most well-read and researched Chinese or Japanese speakers usually don't go above 10,000, and even that is considered like crazy. Like if you know 10,000 characters, that is well, in China is not as mad. In Japan it's pretty mad. In Japan, if you know 10,000 characters, that's pretty good. You probably a lot of that will be very rare, very obscure. And in China, maybe like the best of the best. Like they maybe use like 15,000. I don't know. It's hard for me to estimate. I know in Japan, knowing 10,000 characters is pretty rare. So again, more context about characters. As you know, there's about 2,000 what's considered Joyo kanji. Yeah, so Galendal also just mentioned it. About 2,200 is enough to read most books, it seems. Yes, so we'll get into Joyo right in a second. But first, let's see. So, for more context, the general adult Japanese person knows somewhere between 2.5 to 3,000 kanji, Jojo kanji. So a general educated Japanese adult can recognize about that many kanji, about 2.5, 3,000. If they're well educated, they might go beyond that, like 3 to 4,000. That's about it, okay? That would be like an adult native speaker. Native speaker. That would be about the number that you would expect. I can literally read 200 only, you know, if it's enough for you. How many readings? No. To sort of put you at ease, if you're learning kanji right now and you're encountering kanji like nama, and you're like, how in the world am I ever going to remember all kanji readings? Because I'm sure most of you know nama has notoriously, or se or whatever, life has notoriously many readings. This is not the norm. So to put you at ease, this is not at all common. This is very rare for a kanji to have this many readings that are all considered fairly important. So you can see a lot of these are very, very common. Ikasu, very common. Ikeru, very common. Umareru, very common. Another one, umu, very common. Haeru, very common. Hayasu, very common. Nasu, not as much. And naru, also not very much. But for a kanji to have this many readings that are all common, extremely rare. Extremely rare. There's a handful, literally like 10 or so, that you have to know, like maybe more than 3 readings for, like 3 or 4 readings. The vast majority of kanji, you will realize, has about at most 1 kunyomi that is used, or 2, and like 1 onyomi. And then there's a ton of kanji that only have an onyomi. To give you an example, in the ko in gakko basically only has this 1 reading. I guess kyo is listed, but that's also pretty rare. So for ko, there's like 1 reading, and this is sort of the most common occurrence, that you have 1 or 2 readings that you actually have to remember, and that's about it. Enjoyo, 3488 total, blah, taken from Wikipedia. Interesting, nice. So there you go, it's about 4,000. So you can see there's 2,100 kanji in the Joyo list, but there's only about 4,300 readings. So you can see it's about, on average, it's about 2 per kanji. And that's for Joyo. As you move out of the Joyo and into stuff that is used even less, that balance will shift even more towards the onyomi. You can see already more onyomi than kunyomi in that list. That balance will shift even more to be more just kanji that are basically onyomi only, or have like some kunyomi. So that will probably, if you look at the 5,000 most used kanji, I would assume that you will be looking at like 5,000 some onyomi and maybe like 3,000 some kunyomi, something like that. All right, so that to put you at ease, as you will learn kanji, you will realize that as many readings as something like nama or se, not very common, extremely rare. So I hope that puts you at ease a little bit. Let's get back to kanji lists and kanji classifications. So as an overview, again, there's about 50,000, but most people know 2.5 to 3,000. Most adults. Hey, Chocolate Disco, thank you for following. Follow してくれてありがとう. So, oh, another interesting thing, I guess. About 13,108 characters can be encoded and some, I think, are in Unicode or something like that. So like they can be encoded in industrial standards, basically. Can be encoded, but it's not, you know, that's not really that important, but that's just trivia. Well, thank you for the follow. Hey, we're pretty soon gonna hit 500. I can't talk. We're not that far away from 500 followers, okay? We're 8 followers away from 500. If we can do that today, that would be amazing. Let me get back to my notes. Okay. Mata otaku sensei arawareta. Hi. So, to give you an overview, there's a few classifications of kanji. Hey, nobody new type, thank you for the follow. You have what's called kyoik kanji. So I can show you this Kyoiku kanji. I'm not sure. So that means there are 70,000 characters that can't be typed out. Probably, I mean, same goes for Chinese. I would say most Chinese characters probably can't be typed. Just by sheer volume. Always pontificating about consistency. Yes, you have to be so consistent. There. So these are the Kyoiku kanji. Kyoiku kanji are a list of kanji that are taught in Japanese primary schools, which gives you an idea of how Japanese people learn kanji when they grow up. So by the time they finish primary school, a Japanese person is expected to know about 1,000 kanji. Just keep it in your eye. Yeah, there you go. Just keep doing it. That will be good enough. So by the time you finish primary school, it's expected of you to know about 1,000. Yeah, there you go. they're still expanding. That's true. Then I think the list that we're most familiar with is the Joyo list, the one that gets brought up the most. Probably the list that gets brought up the most is the Joyo kanji list. So Joyo means like daily use. So basically what you get is a list of about 2,000. Well, there isn't like a honey on that one. You got Joyo. Joyo kanji, right? So these, I'm just gonna do Joyo. There's about 2,000. Currently, there's 2,136, and this is a list established by the Japanese government, and also sometimes changed by the Japanese government. As you can see, oh gosh, Unicode has, so Chinese characters, they have about 74,000. That's not bad, Unicode. Congrats. The Joyo list gets updated sometimes. That's pretty rare. Last, it got updated in 2010. I guess it's not that rare, but yeah. So, you know, formally a list of established in da-da-da. So the last update was in 1981, and at that time it had 1,945. And today it has 2,136. This is the list that the JLPT Commission uses to create their tests. If you want to pass the JLPT, if you want to read Japanese or most Japanese texts, that's the list that you're going to work with for the most part. Also, as far as I know, Joyo kanji are the ones that Japanese newspapers will use without attaching the reading. If a kanji is outside of the Joyo, sometimes they will attach little furigana in the newspapers or, you know, other texts. In the newspapers, it's more formal. In books and stuff, I think it's basically left up to the author if he or she wants to add the reading, and if they don't, they won't, and then you're just gonna have to look it up yourself. It's even scarier. China still makes new kanji. Yeah, they still create new ones. I think even Japan must have made some new ones in the past few decades, but not that many. Next, you have, to get back to name readings, a list called the Jinmeiyo. Jinmeiyo kanji is an official kanji list used with kanji that are used primarily in names. Now this is a doozy because you're basically learning, and I can, yeah, so the Jinmeiyo has about 800 kanji. So you're basically saying that like there's about 800 more kanji that you have to read just to read names that you have to learn if you wanted to read most names. And the terminology want to read most something probably comes up a lot because these lists, of course, aren't exhaustive. They're not complete just by the nature of kanji. Just because you know the Joyo, you'll be able to read most stuff, and that's about it. Same for Jinmeiyo, you'll be able to read most names if you remember all these readings. Yeah, Jinmeiyo, a bit of an annoyance, honestly. And then the last one that is commonly referred to is the Hyogai kanji, which are outside of all of these lists. Hyogai kanji. The problem are the fonts, no. Yes, that's true. That must be very annoying. The next Unicode extension, beyond character. Oh boy. There aren't duplicates between... No, these are completely unique. Yeah, these are completely unique. The Jinmeiyo combined with the Joyo kanji make up about a list of 3,000 unique characters. A lot of them, of course, are combinations, or a lot of them are keisei kanji. We'll get into that. Damn, I'm taking so long. I really thought I'd be done in like 1.5 hours. And I haven't even gotten to radicals. I hope you've brought your notebooks. Tell the truth, Jinmei kanji is not restricted in readings. For example, you can read, hyaku. It's, so your Jinmei, you get like, people get really creative with names. That's another issue. But, let's not get into that. And again, Hyogai kanji are non-joyo kanji outside the common use list. This is another huge list. This is where you basically get all the others. This is basically the remainder. The thousands and thousands of remaining characters that aren't part of any of these lists. Whew. And with that, I think we're gonna get into radicals. And radicals are interesting because radicals are the thing that I want to talk about that is actually going to make learning kanji an easier experience, maybe, for a lot of you. Or maybe a more interesting experience for the rest of you. So let's talk about kanji. 見抜きました。フォローしてくれてありがとう。おはようございます。So let's actually look at radicals. Next topic. I'm probably gonna use the toilet first. So I'm gonna go to the toilet first because we start radicals. So radicals is a bit of a big topic again. So let's talk about radicals. And I'm gonna use radicals probably in some sort of a loose terminology here. So because it's only like, so it's kind of bushu, right? The usage is a bit different, but people will still basically understand you either way. It's fine, don't worry about it. Bushu, okay? And I'm gonna go to the toilet real quick, and then we're gonna talk about radicals, alright? So stay put, don't you go anywhere. Because I am watching you always. 日本人より詳しい漢字解説があると聞きました。そうですか？それはないでしょう。ただ、ウィキペディアをこうウィキペディアをちょっとだけこう読んだことで。I'm gonna go to the toilet now. I'll be right back. Hey, watch an ad, okay? Support the channel. Twitch Prime. Anyways, see you. I'll be right back. Alright, I'm back. What did I miss? Nothing, that's good. 日本人リトルル。待ってください。これ確かに恥ずかしくて逃げたのでしょう。I wish Japan was real. Yes, me too. Me too. You're right. It's interesting the word can Japan. Enjoy now. Okay, let's get to the topic at hand. Let's talk about Bushu. The first thing I should say is that there is generally two things people mean when they mention the word radical. Okay, so let's get that out of the way first. Generally, there's like a bit of a discussion there. So usually what people mean when they say radical is they mean parts of kanji somehow. They're not all that specific about it. They're just like, some part of the kanji. That's what people mean, and that's how I will use the term for the most part. Now, if you want to be really strict, then every kanji has at most one and exactly one radical, which identifies the kanji to be part of a unique list of kanji that are considered to have that radical. To show you what I mean is so usually, right, and this is, by the way, the reason for that is that's a fixed and agreed upon list that is used by dictionaries. When you want to search kanji in a dictionary, in a paper dictionary, right, you don't have the luxury of selecting all the radicals, all the parts from a list. So you kind of have to know what character has what agreed upon radical, right? So for example, I have this here. There is no such thing, yeah, and again, there is no such thing also as a kanji without a radical. Every kanji has at least its radical, even though if sometimes the kanji itself is already the radical. Yeah, let me see. Right, don't despair. I'm just looking at an article right now so I can go through this. Not the radical for 3 different radical altogether. Yeah. So if you go to certain dictionaries, some dictionaries will have one entry for the radical. I think this one probably has that same thing. See? Okay, so here, if we look at soto, right, we can see that the radical is evening you or whatever. Yeah, this one. That's the radical, not the thing on the right, just this is considered to be the radical. So if you had a paper dictionary, which is sorted by radical, which is pretty common, then you would find soto under this radical, right? For the most part, when people online say, when people online or somewhere say radical, they often just mean part of a kanji, and that's fine, and Japanese people will understand, because that's why, so bushu usually means that one radical, right? So just the one, and that's kind of how bushu is used. It's fine though, like, that's something to consider, but it's not like Japanese people are going to be super confused if you refer to the wrong, like, thing as the main bushu of a kanji or something like that. Top left most part usually. Yeah, that may be, I think so. That's probably like the thing. So let's look at these radicals and these bushu and whatnot. In general, okay, it's not actually that bad. In general, there is 7 different positions, and that's about all you can have. So let me take a screenshot and then paste it in here, so you may be delighted about this information that I'm about to present to you. Here you go. You may have seen this. I'm using the Nihongo, what was it? Nihonshok, I think, Nihonshok article. A very good article, by the way. Here, read it if you want to. I'm going to go through a lot of what it says, but if you want to have some more detailed reading, I highly encourage you to, read this article. But not right now, okay? Because right now I'm talking. I'm talking here. But these are the basic 7 positions that are differentiated for radicals. Okay, easy enough, easy enough. And that's basically it. There is no radical that falls outside of these 7. So you have the left side. Let me make that in red so it's a bit more visible. You have the left side radical, often referred to as hen, okay? Or I guess primarily referred to as hen, which is also why a lot of the left side radicals have the word hen in their name. For example, this one here is referred to as nimben, okay? So if we write it down, it's nimben. Oops. Which you can already kind of tell nin is from human. This is in fact the kanji hito, but it's squished to become a left radical. The right radical then is called tsukuri. The top is called kammuri. Kammuri, by the way, if you recognize this kanji here, means crown, okay? Yeah, also, this kanji here is a way of writing soba, which is by the side of something, which makes sense, I guess. So let's look that up, soba. Soba ni iru, right? You can write it like that. Actually, I'm wrong, kind of. Yeah, soba is actually different, sorry. Tsukuri. I was almost right, because soba is actually that character, but it has, like, the other part. So I guess it's just, yeah, tsukuri. I guess it's just used for this mostly, like this reading mostly, this meaning mostly. But yeah, you get kammuri. Kammuri is actually a normal word, which means traditional cap worn by Shinto clergy. Interesting. Kammuri usually just referred to as the crown or whatever. So there you go. So you have tsukuri, you have kammuri, which is a crown. Kamuri, again, a word that will show up in the name of the individual radical. You have ashi, which is fairly straightforward. Ashi means leg. So the bottom radical is called ashi. You have tare, which is top left. Top left, tare. Tare means to hang from. So often tare radicals work in a way where they sort of have this hanging thing going on, like, you know, this and then hanging down. So tare, that's tare. Oh, wait, I can't do that. Plop, tare, okay. And then you have nyo, bottom left. Nyo is what you get for, you know, the road radical. Most people learn this as the road radical. So you would call this nyo, whatever. This is the bottom left radical. You don't have to know the names, by the way. The bushes are everywhere. After all, the location of the crash isn't fixed. Just name it where it is. Yes. True. So you have tare and nyo. And the last one is called kamae. So kamae usually something that envelops the kanji or envelops the rest of it. So you can have different ones. This is called mongamae, which is the gate radical usually. Mon means gate, mongamae. You have kunigamae. This radical here is actually named after this kanji because kuni is country. So kunigamae generally is the box that will go around a you know, this like treasure kanji basically. So kunigamae. I forgot the name for this one, but this is basically the word iku, right? So you get, I forgot what it's called exactly, but it's nothing else than the kanji iku, to go, and then you put something in the middle of it. And this one is, I think, I'm not sure if it's hakogamae or something else, but yes, this is the box enclosure. So there you go. You don't need to know these names. They're not super important. But what is useful is to realize that, hey, there's only 7 types of radicals. That's not that much, that you can get your head around that pretty easily. I think in total there's about 200 radicals. The complete list is like 200 and something, I think. So there's not that many radicals, and these radicals basically make up all kanji. The trickier part is that the same radical can be in different positions and look differently based on where it is. I'm going to give you an example of this later. So let's keep these 7 positions in mind. I'm going to actually get rid of all my annotations. I'm going to make this a little bit smaller. Put it up here. Let's make it a bit smaller. Okay. So that I can write below it. Here we go. So let's look at some more specific examples. I have my handy list ready. Now, most radicals are based off actual kanji and then got changed in some way to become radicals. So let's look at an example like this radical here. Like I already mentioned, this guy is just, this is called nimbeng, okay? So this guy is called nimbeng. I'm gonna write its name once again. Nimbeng. Nimbeng is the human radical. Okay, and it is based off this kanji, hito. It's based off hito. Very straightforward. You basically take the kanji hito and you squish it a little, and you get the human radical. So that's what we call nimbeng. That's the human radical, and you just add it like that. Let's do some more left side radicals. Let's do some more hen. Okay. Another one that happens is sanzui. Okay, so if you take the character Mizu, like water, okay, you take Mizu and you squish it into its hen form, into its left radical form, you get Sanzui. Sanzui is this guy, the water radical. When you learn about radicals, often they're given a name. It depends on how you learn them, but even Japanese people associate a name or meaning with the radical usually. So what I would advise you is learn this radical here, this one here, learn it as the human radical basically, the human part, the human radical, something like that. Learn this part here as the water radical. It just makes things a bit easier. It makes it a lot easier to find mnemonics, okay? So for example, you know, if you have something like, I don't know, let's take any example that contains sanzui, like gen, right? Like origin of something. You can find it there, right? Like this kanji, minamoto, origin. I don't know, make up something, because you know that the right part, right? The right part is Izumi, right? Spring. Sorry, not Izumi. Sorry, it's also Moto, right? Yeah, I think so. So you can probably find it somewhere here. If I can find it. I thought it can be Moto as well, but I forgot. Oh no, I'm an idiot. It's Haru. Hara. Hara. It's Hara. Never mind. Hara. It's field. For a quick second there, I was really confused. Sanjui. Sanjui. 31st day of the month. Well, there you go. I learned one from water as water left. Yeah, that's fine too. So if you wanted to make up like a mnemonic for, you know, Minamoto, which means origin, like this kanji. If we wanted to make up something to remember this kanji, what would we do? Well, I don't know. That's up to you, right? That's what mnemonics are for. But you could be like, well, the origin is where like you have a field and water that flows through you, so the water has to come from somewhere, right? So you have like a field of grass and like a bit of water that flows in, and like the water has to come from someplace. I don't know. Learn it like that, right? That's a way of learning kanji, which is very popular. And for that, it helps to know the radicals, because you have this fixed concept linked to a radical. Best part of remembering kanji. Yeah. So that's what Heisig tries to do. In RTK, right, and remembering the kanji, the very famous book, that's how you do it. That's how you learn the stuff. You learn like, oh, okay, water radical. Oh, okay, this means field. So maybe water and field, I can make something up. Be careful about two things, I would say. Okay, two things to be careful about with mnemonics. Number one, I recommend using a meaning that is pretty close to the Japanese understanding of the radical. For example, Sanzui is closely related to Mizu. This part here is very important. The relation between Sanzui, the water radical, and water itself is undeniable. Like, it really just, that's what it comes from, right? So I think it's counterproductive to like give the radicals your own name and your own interpretation. You can to a degree, but going too far with it, I don't think serves you any positive purpose. So if you're trying to learn radicals, go with something like the Kodansha Learner's Course or maybe even RTK. Heisig stays pretty close to the original meaning. He's not always 100% there. I think Kodansha may be a bit better. That book's out of print though, so good luck with that. You can also find this information online. So I advise you to try and stay a bit close to the original meaning. Oh, nom, thank you for the follow. I advise you to stay close to the original meaning, because I think it just makes a mess in your head, right, if you don't. It's fine, but it's a bit of a mess, and also knowing the meaning as Japanese people understand it enables you to also talk about it with other Japanese people, right? Because Japanese people also associate this radical with water, and they know it as Sanzui. I don't really like mnemonics, but to each their own. Yeah, so mnemonics are totally optional. I still think that learning the radicals can help, because it gives your brain a means of splitting up kanji into smaller parts, and it's like it's a good way of you know, helping with remembering them. It's good to remember. Yeah, stop using RTK after the named kanji, something like Pagoda and Pavlova. Yeah, that's the big disadvantage with RTK is you don't learn any of the readings, and the words you learn are sometimes a bit strange. Yeah, that's the big minus point. That's why I think the Kodansha Learner's Course might be superior, because it actually just teaches you straight up the real reading of the kanji, and it teaches you example words. Yeah, so you have that guy. Forgot what that radical is called. I don't think it's in my list right here, but yeah. Another interesting thing is, if you know how the radicals are called, you can actually type them. So if you type into your IME Sanzui, like written like this, right? Sanzui. If you type that and you hit space a bunch of times, it will eventually show up. That's pretty cool. If you type Nimben, it will eventually show up, and you can type just the radical. It has Unicode. There's Unicode for it. So there you go. Quite fun. Does KKLC teach radicals? Yes, I think it does. I think it uses the radical approach, but I'm not 100% sure. I think it does teach you like a radical, and it has like a Sanzukuri. Nice. Okay, there you go. Sanzukuri. Which makes sense. Again, zukuri is the right side. Sanzukuri only found on the right side of kanji. Like, what's that tree called? It's like a tree, like... I forgot. It's not Matsu, right? No, Matsu's completely different. I forgot. Doesn't matter. But yeah, there's like, you know which character... I mean, this guy, I know distinctly that there's like a... This one, it's like some type of tree, but I forgot. Doesn't matter. Sanzukuri. Yeah, so it's based off... Probably is based off that character, actually. Let's look at some other ones, okay? So, I think two interesting ones to look into, because they're easily confused, are the very famous Koromo-hen and Shimesu-hen. So let's look at the two kanji Koromo and Shimesu. Let's start with Shimesu, actually. So if you know the word Shimesu, and we talked about this during Sunday's stream, if you know about Shimesu, this means to like point out something or to mean something, basically. Shimesu also a word used pretty commonly. And yeah, so this is the point out, express, show, indicate. There you go. You see that. So shimesu. The other kanji that we're going to look at is koromo. Koromo means clothing. Koromo. So koromo means clothes, garment, something like that. It's the clothing kanji. Sugi. Yeah, sugi. There you go, sugi. What's that? The cider, right? Cider tree? I'm pretty sure. There you go. That's the tree I was thinking of. Sugi. This kanji sugi is also used as a internet slang for sugi too much. So you see this on like forums. Sugi. Takasugi. They will use this kanji instead. It's a slang though. It's completely joke. It's a complete like joking usage, basically. So the other character that we're gonna look at is Koromo, which is written like this. Koromo. Okay. Now both Koromo and Shimesu, well, Koromo also used sometimes as like ashi radical or whatever, but let's look at left side radicals only for now. So Koromo actually squishes into Shimesu-hen, which looks like this. And you've probably seen it. Koromo squishes into Koromo-hen, and you've probably also seen it. And so I'm sure maybe there's some of you right now that are realizing that they have actually been looking at a radical and thought it was the same, when in fact these are not the same. Shimesu-hen and Koromo-hen are different. They're completely different radicals. They're from completely different kanji, one of which carries the meaning of show or mean, the other one carries the meaning of clothing for the most part. So you can see the kanji are extremely different, the radicals are extremely similar. It's a one-stroke difference. The big issue with this is, of course, if you're looking up a kanji in your dictionary, you will often do this by stroke count. And you will see that all characters that have this radical, the Koromo-hen, automatically have this additional stroke, because Koromo-hen has an additional stroke compared to Shimesu-hen. So if you mess it up, you're not going to find your kanji. To give you an example, a very common occurrence of Shimesu-hen is in miru, to look, right? Or what you find in mushi for not looking at this character. Probably seen it before, right? This one, looking. This is another way of saying looking. It's in mushi, which means to ignore. This is read as shi usually, or miru. So to give you some readings of this character. And Koromo-hen, commonly found in a character such as hajimete or hatsu, which is like this. So you have, let's write down two readings only for now. Hatsu, or like, hajimaru or whatever, right? Hajimaru. There you go. So you can see these here are different, and that's an important thing to keep in mind. Good evening, Fapakung. How's it going? I think this is maybe the most notorious radical thing where people get confused, or people realize that, oh, damn, these are two different radicals. So just something to keep in mind. You have Koromo-hen and you have Shimesu-hen. One has an additional stroke. They are completely different radicals. They happen to look very similar, but generally are considered to be separate things. Okay. Let's move on to some tsukuri. You have a bunch of interesting tsukuri to look at. So like right radicals, right? Very common ones are things like ritto. Oh, thank you. I try. My writing on PC is getting better than my actual handwriting. There is things, so bunch of tsukuri. Let's look at a bunch of tsukuri now. I'm gonna get rid of this. So I'm gonna mark that we're on tsukuri now. We're looking at this tsukuri. Oh, actually, you can't see that. We're looking at this. Oh yeah, we're gonna talk about Niku and Tsuki in a second there. We're gonna talk about that. So you have, that's a good one. That's a good one. We're gonna talk about that. But let's first look at some tsukuri. So a very common one is Rito. Is the music too loud, by the way? I hope it isn't. If so, then do point it out. I've kind of let it like this for 1.5 hours. Rito is a very common one. Oh, maybe before we move to tsukuri, let's give you like some more interesting ones. I'm not sure if I'm doing the right stroke order here. I'm always like messing up kokoro. There, kokoro turns into rishinben, by the way. Is this one, the one that you find in like this kanji here. Right, stuff like that. There's some interesting stuff. So I encourage you to look at the link that I sent. I can send it again. Let's look at this. I encourage you, once again, read this article. It's really interesting. What did I just do? Whoo, boy. Interesting. Why did it mean cutting close with a knife means starting? We're gonna look at that also today. Not specifically why that kanji has that meaning, but we're gonna look at why some kanji are the way they are. Okay. No problem, Stefano. So we're gonna look at some of that stuff. Let's look at some tsukuri. So a very famous, or not very famous, a very common tsukuri is Rito. Rito is actually just yaiba shrunk down to this one that you're very familiar with, I think, right? For example, the kanji mae uses it. Looks like this, right? It has Rito right in there. This guy. This is referred to as Rito. If I'm writing that correct, yes I am. Rito. You can also get that to show up on your IME, one of many. 面白くてドキドキするんだ。いいですね、そういうの. I like it. So Rito is a very common one. Another very famous tsukuri is, let's look at which one shall we do. Well, ogai. Ogai is super common. Ogai. You recognize it immediately as the head reticle if you've learned about reticles before. So ogai, this guy. This guy doesn't really change shape at all. It just stays like that. That's its whole thing, ogai, right? So ogai. This is called ogai, and you find it in tons of stuff like michi or like, you know, it's like hard to think of stuff, but like atama, right? Atama, of course, head uses it. Atama, you just kind of add you add this guy to the side of it and you get atama, right? Perfect. Ogai. Another one, we just saw it before, which would be sanzukuri, right? Sanzukuri was this guy. Sanzukuri. You also have an interesting one is the difference between you have kozatohen and ozatohen, I think. If I'm right, ozato, kozatohen and ozato. So first the zukuri version is ozato, right? Ozato. It's a kanji that looks like this. If I can draw it. Yeah, there. This is what the kanji looks like, but when it's squished, it becomes this guy. So there's actually two versions. The other one is a left side radical called kozatohen, which is from this character. This one squishes into this guy. And of course they're different. One of them is a left radical and the other is a right radical. They have distinct names and they come from distinct things. So there's another one of those things. An example, for example, the word bushu, right? The bu part is with, yeah, so the bu part would be with, let me see, kozatohen. Where have I got it? Oh, it's up there. So bushu would be with kozato, I think. Let me see. Just so I don't mess stuff up. Oh, that would be okay. So, bushu would be with this one here. So you get like pop, 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 right? This guy. And then you get kozatohen and stuff like, for example, limit, like gen, like in gente, or like the other thing I forgot right now. I forgot the reading. Kagiru, right? Did I add an extra? No, that's correct. Like this. So there you go. These are different, or at least by name. I mean, of course, they look exactly the same. Cutting clothes is the very first step to make clothes, hence the very beginning etymology. Oh, interesting. Yeah. So it's a very straightforward. It's a very straightforward kanji, I guess. There you go. That's so interesting. I know, right? Isn't this amazing? We're only at Skuri. Maybe I should speed it up a little. If you don't, yeah, you know, don't mind if you don't mind. Also, Kuram-san points out an interesting thing between like, Bu and the other one is Bai, I think, and like Kaibu or something. Kaibu, is that right? Am I right? No, I'm wrong. The other one isn't. Is that like? No, it's different. I think I should know this, but right now I can't think of a word that uses it. Baishin. Oh, okay, okay, like, is that like judge or something? Or is that following, accompanying, attending on? That's not very common, I don't think. But I should definitely know Baishin. Anyways. What's different? Yeah, the only actual difference is whether it's left or right. That's why in dictionaries you will find these two different, like the left one and the right one are usually listed differently. So you kind of have to pay attention which one you pick, depending, right? So sometimes in dictionaries, usually they'll have like a selection box, and one will look like this, and the other one will specifically look like this, right? So you kind of have to, choose whether you want the left or the right one. Same, just the side of them. Yeah, so they're written exactly the same. Ouch, hit my knee. They're written exactly the same, it's just the side. So that's it for tsukuri. You can find more tsukuri on your own on the website or on other websites. Let's look at some kanmuri. Kanmuri are crown radical types. A very famous one is kusa kanmuri. So you have the word kusa, which means grass, and you extract basically just the top part of it, and you get kusa kanmuri. Kusa kanmuri also has a bigger version of it. Let me see if I can get it to show here somewhere. It's not on this website, but kusa kanmuri. If you type it, you can actually get it to show up. It's this guy. So this old version of kusa, this guy here, this is what was squished into kusa kanmuri. So maybe more accurately, I should put this guy here, right? So like, like this. This is not really used anymore. Right now you have the actual kusa character that's used as this guy. But yeah, traditionally this got squished into kusa kanmuri. And of course, this you find all over the place in words like, kuro suru, like the ku, like suffering, like this guy, ku, etc, etc. Very common. Nimotsu, another one, very common character. Another common kanmuri is, let's see what other common kanmuris you have. Ukanmuri. Ukanmuri is interesting because it's literally called after a katakana. So the katakana u looks like this, and ukanmuri is this guy. This is referred to as ukanmuri. So if you even type this ukanmuri just like that, you can actually get it to show up as well. It's the one in, for example, it's the one in like kyaku or something like that, right? So customer, you get this guy, kyaku. There you go. That's ukanmuri. Also, you can see that ukanmuri follows exactly the stroke order of u, actually, which is also kind of interesting. You also get wakanmuri, and I'm sure you can guess wakanmuri from wa is this guy, okay? You also get take kanmuri, very straightforward again, take, written like this. Am I writing take properly? I think the first stroke doesn't have a feeling like that. There. Take kanmuri is this guy. That's take kanmuri, etc, etc. And then like there's some weird ones like yeah, nabebuta or whatever it was called. Is it nabebuta? Yeah, maybe. But yeah, there's some weird ones, but they also count as kanmuri. Next, oops, there we go. Let's next talk about some ashi radicals. Oop, this one. You can see one right there, the heart one. This would be I'm not sure what the name of it would be, maybe still kokoro. You have a different version of kokoro that gets compressed as an ashi radical, which is called shitagokoro. So you have basically this guy. I'm so bad at like drawing, I'm so bad at doing kokoro, it's so hard. You have this guy. It's not even, wait, there's one stroke too many. You have kokoro, which gets squished into what looks like this. Okay. A lot of people think this is a small radical, like chisai. It's not. It's shitagokoro. It's what you find in, for example, like this guy. Whoop, whoop. Am I doing? Yeah, I think that's it. You find it here. Right, this one. This is, what is this? Like so or something? It's like to add, I'm pretty sure. Let me copy it. Ashtau, not so. Yearn for. Too long for. Okay, sorry, my fault. To idolize. So you find it in here. That's shitagokoro. That's actually the heart radical. The more you know. One of those weird ones that looks completely different all of a sudden. Another one is renga. You get renga. Renga is actually a compressed fire radical. So you take fire and you compress it into what you've seen probably many times. This little bottom guy, which you can find in stuff like Ritsu, right? Ritsu dansu. But no. Ritsu, like in this guy. That is renga, sorry. So this would be renga. This would be renga. Or niru, to cook. This is renga. Let's move a bit faster now. I think this is getting old and you can actually read it on the website. Next one, tare. You can just see this radical. So there's this guy and the one with the thing. And yeah, that's like... There's also yamaidare. Yamaidare also very common. The illness radical, yamaidare, the one that you actually find in the word illness, like byo. You know, this guy, yamaidare. Of course, nyo, we all know michi. What you might not know is there's like a full version of it, which looks somewhat like, if I can draw it somewhat accurately, it looks kind of like this, and it basically compresses into this guy. That's the road radical that you probably also know, where you get like, you know, michi and all that stuff. Very, very common stuff. You know, like michi is in there, boop, boop, like this. Then you get these ones. These are kamae, and this one already shows you a bunch of examples. This is mongamae, the gate radical, kunigamae, the land box radical. I forgot the name of this one, but I think it's written on the side. It's not. I forgot what it... Oh, no. Well, no. It is there. It's gyogamae. Well, makes sense. So a reading of this kanji is actually gyo. If you know, this iku can be read as gyo sometimes. So gyo. So it's gyogamae, right? And tsutsumigamae. So you know maybe the word like tsutsumu, right? So tsutsumigamae is the one that looks like this. This is tsutsumigamae, right? So this is what you get, tsutsumigamae, and you can put something in there, like ku. You get the phrase. Okay. That's an example for each of these, and that's radicals. Let's look at some weirdness. Let's look at some radical weirdness, okay? Let's look at the characters akarui, which means bright, or the one you also find in ashita, and let's look at this character, which means torso. Do. 違う. Wait, let me do that a bit more proper. There. Before I flop things. Let's look at these two. Well, you'd think that these are the same, right? I've actually tweeted about this before. You'd think that these are the same. They look exactly the same, right? There's no difference in stroke order or appearance. Alas, they're not. They're completely different radicals, and someone in chat pointed this out before. Now, it so happens that the moon character, Tsuki, turns into a radical that looks like this, and it also so happens that the meat radical, Niku, turns into something that looks exactly like this as well. One of them is called Nikutsuki, and the other one is called... well, the other one is just called Tsukihen. Yeah, one is just called Tsukihen, the other is called Nikutsuki. The advantage being that I'm pretty sure this is always a left side radical, left side, and this is always a right side radical, basically, for the most part. So you can see that in ashita, or, you know, brightness, it is a right side radical, and here it's a left side radical. Another interesting thing is that this guy is by far more common than this. Yeah, that's why And also, that's why you find this, what most people think is the moon radical, in so many kanji that have to do with bodies or like, you know, flesh or whatever. That's why this is all the meat radical, all of this. And it's far more common. All of these characters like torso or hara, like stomach, all of these, the reason is, it's because it is the flesh radical. It has to do with some sort of body or flesh. That's actually the vast majority of kanji that contain what looks like moon actually contain it as a meaning of flesh instead of moon. So Dukan has given us a few of them that are actually the moon meaning. So one is asa, morning is moon, and then the other one is the ki from kitai suru, like to expect. That is also the meaning of moon. These are all nikuzukuri じゃなくてこれ these two are, so as far as I know, these two are the moon radical. Asa being one of the very few. And then the next two are flesh. This is some organ. I forgot which organ exactly it was. It was like kidneys, maybe? A pancreas. Yeah, suizo. There you go, pancreas. Yeah. Koreans, they take the Chinese writing system and make it easier. Japanese take the Chinese writings and make it harder. Yeah, so Kurama-san just gave us a whole list of all of these being the meat radical. Here I thought this was from the moon. Nope, it's not. You can... there is websites. So one I use is called, there's like a kanji dictionary website that I use. Let me show you real quick if I can find it. There. Ushukara. Kanji Jitennon. So on this website, you can click on the radical, exactly the one you like, and it differentiates between tsukihen and nikuzuki. So you can pick exactly the one you like. And if you go look at 3 strokes under tsukihen, if we can find it, sorry, 4 strokes. My fault. It's 4 strokes. You go to Tsuki or Tsukihen, you can actually see a complete list, and it's not that many. It's about those. That's it, right? And a lot of these are kind of uncommon. So you know, you have it here, and it's there, right? Whatever. And if you go to Nikuzuki, actually scroll over here. Nikuzuki would be down here, and you see there's a bunch more actually. There's tons, right? So these are all meat. There you go. So that's one of the weird things with radicals. Koreans used to. So actually, most Japanese don't recognize the origin of radicals. Crows should help you learn them. You can remember them with reasons. Yeah. Again, this is just like a weird little thing that I find neat. You don't really have to know this, but it is interesting, and it certainly shines some light on why the moon is part of so many body part words. It kind of makes that a bit more logical, a bit more sensible, if you ask me. But there you go. Again, study tips. Learn radicals. They are... Oh, you're pure Japanese. Pure Japanese, wow. Well, welcome. So, study tips if you want to learn that. I think radicals are cool. You don't have to learn the names. So things you don't have to learn. You don't have to learn the names. You don't have to learn the kanji which they originated from. You don't have to. It's fine. You don't need to know it. And you also don't have to learn every single radical. Learn like the common ones. You know, use them to remember kanji and stuff like that. Cheese radical. Moon and star, but its meaning is, oh boy. Oh, excuse me. I forgot what the meaning of this is, but I think I've seen it before. Oops, clicked on names. Let's see. Namagusa. Something that smells of fish or blood. Amazing. Bloody. Bloody. You bloody. Some that are used in Korean. Yeah, they are still used. But very rarely. Behind radicals make it easier to remember. Yeah, I think it probably makes it easier. It makes it more interesting, and by that automatically like easier to remember, because I think we're better at remembering things that kind of make sense in some sort of context, even if it's just like a historical context, even if it's just like, oh, okay, so things kind of evolved into this and I kind of know a little bit about it. Do you have to know it? No, not really. Is it interesting? Yes, I think so. I think it's very interesting. So just for that, it's probably worth taking a look. Let's look at another weirdness. The last thing that we'll do... Ah, Japanese question. こんばんは。 I hope you're having a good time. こう今日の配信を楽しんでくれるなら、嬉しいです。What was I about to say? Right, let's look at one last weird thing about radicals, which is another weirdness thing, which we have ima and subete or zen or whatever you want to call it. So we have now and we have everything. These two roof things, you'd think they're the same, but they're not. They're different. So the one from ima actually has what is called, let me see. Yeah, that one is called hitoyane. Hitoyane is the human roof, the human roof radical. So it's a streamer hosted a while ago. Oh yeah, Japanese. No, Daniel knows. Thank you for the follow, Commodore. They're different. Yeah, they're different. In ima, it's hitoyane, so it's you basically squish hito into hitoyane. In subete or zen or whatever, you know, whichever reading you want to use, it is actually irigashira, which is this guy. So that's very annoying. There you go, irigashira. So these are theoretically two different radicals, but they look exactly the same. That's also why in some fonts you will see, I think some fonts have like a little thing up here, like this maybe. I think I've seen that some fonts have like a differentiation there, but I might be wrong. But yeah, I think I've seen some fonts where that roof looks a bit different. What? That basically finishes our radical topic. I encourage you to look into it, and you know, to really enjoy the journey of like learning about radicals. It's a lot of fun, for the most part. For the most part, it's a lot of fun to do. Whew, we're almost done, ladies and gentlemen. We're getting to an end, not the end, but an end. So next, let's talk about Rikusho. I really like Rikusho. It's a bit of a more obscure topic, but let's talk about it. Next topic will be the Rikusho, which are the seven, yes, sure, which are the 6 types of classifying kanji. So you get like, wait, I said down here. I'm having like a brain fart here. It's like this, right? There. Let's look at Rikusho. Rikusho are the 7 ways that you can classify a kanji character as. Okay, and for that I'm gonna have to open up yet a different document. This one here. I think even a lot of people in Japan probably don't know that much about Rikusho. It's a bit of an obscure topic. But in general, kanji can be classified into 6 categories, okay? That would be number 1, and we're gonna go through these in order. Number 1 is shoukei kanji, which are shape kanji based on like kanji that have come from like a specific shape. Basically, hieroglyphics, right? So they are supposed to signify literally the shape of something. So these are called I'm gonna probably take some time writing these down, but yeah. So these are called shoukei kanji. Let me not mess up this writing. Shoukei, and kei is usually always just this guy, shoukei. So these are hieroglyphics based on, they're supposed to just like literally be a picture of a thing, more or less. Number 2 would be shiji. These are indicative kanji. They represent abstract ideas. So number 2 is this. And then G is this guy. There goes shiji. Number 3 are keisei kanji, my favorite. I have to go now. Oh, thank you for watching, Wilper. See you next time, hopefully. I'll be back Friday. I don't actually know what we're gonna do on Friday. Okay. So, my favorite category is keisei. Keisei are these ones, where keisei are the ones with 1 phonetic part and 1 mimetic part, where they have a part that signifies the meaning and a part that signifies the reading. So that's keisei. Number 4 are kai kanji. Let me see, kai compound ideographs. So where they have like 2 different, you know, like basically you take the meaning of like the 2 parts or more parts, you put them together, you get the meaning of the whole kanji. So these are like this. Kai. Whoops, forgot a stroke there. Kai, like this. I remember I have to learn about radical positions in Rally, but never learn about Rikusho. It's still very good to learn though. Yeah. This is really bonus knowledge. I think there's some ones. I think maybe knowing about keisei, that's why this is my favorite group. This one here, that knowing about number 3 is really the one that will open up a whole new world for you, okay? So just wait until I get to it. But keisei, I think, is the one that has actual real world like usages if you know about them. It's really, really useful. The others are kind of nice to know, but like, you know, it's more obscure, I guess. Number 5 is tenchu. So like tenchu are really weird. Tenchu are like some of the weirdest ones. So let's see. Tenchu are spelled like this. Whoop, whoop. Ten is like korogaru, I think, and then chu would be this guy. Whoops, one too many strokes. Tenchu. And number 6, and the last group is called kasha. So kasha also a bit weird. Some of these are a bit strange. Kasha, so like kariru. And you get these. So these are the 6 groups, okay? Put this into your mind and we're gonna go through each one. I'm gonna use the space over here to look at each one. So the first group is fairly straightforward. These are straight up pictures. So one of the first, so once let's get rid of the red maybe somehow. No, let me indicate where we are by just marking it here. Okay, we're at number 1 right now. These are really simple ones. For example, you have, you know, heat. This is literally just meant to be a picture of the sun, kind of. Tsuki is kind of meant to be a picture of the moon. More obvious ones like kawa is just kind of meant to just be a river. The first one, punishing of elephants. Oh yeah, I think I got the wrong one. You're right. We're not punishing elephants. We're using this one here. Wrong color. Oop. You're right. I'm sorry. My fault. Now it's better. And see your right stroke orders. Great. Oh, well, thank you. I'm trying my best. So group 1, straight up pictures of things. Kawa or Yama. Very famously, Yama is more or less the ideogram of a mountain. It's just meant to kind of look like a mountain, right? Like, ta-da, mountain. Anyways. So this is like the most easily understood group, I think. There's not really much to say about them. Really, they're just meant to be pictures of something. That's all it is. So here, number 2 is a bit more interesting. Let me actually look up what I noted down about number 2. So indicative, shiji. So the first one is shokei, right? Shokei. You can see that the kanji shokei. Oops, accidentally stopped the music. I can also, by the way, you can find these on Jisho. So shokei. If you look hard enough, there. Hieroglyphic type of character representing pictures. Shokei, there you go. And the next one would be shiji. Shiji. We can find it down here. Shiji. Indicative kanji. Kanji whose shape is based on logical representation of an abstract idea. This is sometimes a bit more strange, but okay, so simple examples are kanji like ki, where putting a line on the top will indicate the apex and putting a line on the bottom will give us root. Okay, so for example, what they mean by that is if you take the character ki for tree as a root and you kind of put a line on top, you get matsu, or not matsu. You get was it matsu or mi? Mi. I keep confusing these two. Mi, mizen or whatever. No, it's matsu, right? Yeah, it's matsu. There you go, matsu, sue. Matsusue. So putting a line on the top gives you top, basically, and putting a line on the bottom gives you the root, right? So if you have ki and you put a line on the bottom, you get the root. You get moto or hon, right? So those are shiji kanji, where you take one and you kind of modify them, or they're meant to signify a not a picture of something, but of something that is an abstract idea. Other examples include ue pointing up and shita pointing down, okay? Or the numbers. The numbers are very obviously represent abstract ideas of counting 1, 2, 3, okay? So those are shiji kanji. Group number 2, shiji. That's what it works. Now, my favorite group, keisei, okay? This is the group that will actually be useful to you when you learn. Keisei kanji. Keisei kanji are phonosemantic, not semantic, phonosemantic kanji, keisei. So let me find them in here. There you go. Kanji in which one element suggests the meaning and the other suggests the pronunciation. This is a huge group. It is estimated that about 80% of all valid kanji are actually keisei kanji. So this is huge. I think for the Joyo kanji, it's about 50 or 60% or something. Thank you for following, Radmus. Arigato. So keisei is huge. And keisei is the one where like, oh, damn, I understand. So let's look at a very cool example for keisei. You probably, maybe or maybe not, but probably you know the kanji onaji do, which means same, okay? It means same, onaji or do, onaji. Now, onaji. Keisei is a way by which sort of new kanji can get their meaning, new kanji can get their reading by inheriting it from usually the right radical. Let's look at examples of this. What are some characters that contain this kanji here as a right radical? Well, one of them is the one we just looked at before, which means torso, do. And yes, my friends, that's exactly what's happening right here. This here is the flesh radical. It gives us the meaning of flesh or body. And this is the phonetic radical, which gives us the reading, do. Now, this is extremely cool because for the first time, body, let's do body, right? For the first time, you can look at a kanji that you've never seen before and not only make a pretty good guess at the meaning, but also at the reading. Has anyone studying Japanese noticed a halo effect in your life, like having noticed effect in your problem-solving abilities? Interesting, I'm not sure. So let's look at more examples. Another example includes copper. So I'm not sure if I'm getting the stroke order of do right here, but copper is another one. So we get the reading do for copper, and we get the meaning from the metal radical here, metal. Okay, do, another one. You can have even more examples, like in dokutsu, or yeah, dokutsu, you basically get, is that even right? Wait, now I have to actually think. Not in dokutsu, well, maybe actually. Dokutsu, no, yeah, you're right. Dokutsu, you also get, you get like hora, right? This one, you get do is the phonetic character. Following Japanese. Now I feel like Japanese is the only correct way of life. Yes. Saying things differently in English. So this is why I think these are so fascinating. Let's look at another example. I've written down a bunch of these here. So another one that you see often is sun. So this character here can mean sang or mairu, right? So you get, I'm trying to not mess this up, but I think, yeah, so like this. This is it 2 or 3? It's 3, right? Yeah, I got it right. Mairu. So this guy here usually means 3, and it has the very distinct reading sun. There's a lot of characters that are read sun, which contain this guy. For example, one being one with like using the heart radical as an extra, and then you basically have this, and it's the one that you find in like atrocity and stuff like that. It's like sang. I'm gonna have to quickly find it. I forgot the word, but I have the kanji here. It's also, I think, nijimu or something. Shimiru maybe? Sang, appalling. Yeah, so you have it in hisang. Yeah, hisang. Tragedy, like appalling or disaster, miserable. All of these. Okay, so there you go. Now you mentioned, why is Ninjin carrot. A good question. I think that's Ateji. I think Ninjin is just Ateji, to be honest. Oh yeah, you also have this one. Is it in there? I'm not sure. Yeah, Seisang. Yeah, gruesome, appealing. Ninjin. Yeah, Ninjin is carrot. But that's just Ateji, to be honest. Okay, so this is Keisei. Now, what that means is, if you know a bunch of kanji, you can sort of extrapolate their reading into like a huge amount more. Okay, so if ever you're stuck trying to read a kanji, again, your chances are pretty good that it's Keisei. Like, again, about 60% of Joyo kanji, or 50 or 60% of Joyo kanji, and like in total about 70 to 80% of kanji are Keisei. So if you can, if you're stuck having to make a guess, it's usually a pretty good idea to just guess the reading of the right radical. That's not, like, it's not 100%, of course, it can never be 100%, but it works pretty well, and it also helps you remember the readings better. Japanese word and use Japanese person would know what you're talking about. So you can, so can you make up a Japanese word using kanji and Japanese person would know what you're talking about? Yes and no. Not 100%. You can, probably in a way where it's understood, right? Most words already kind of exist. So I'm sure you could, but it's not like universally understood. You could use like some kanji that are very unambiguous. Like, I don't know, you could say like, you know, I don't know, take like hito and fire and like put them together to mean human fire or whatever. I don't know, like you could probably work with it a little bit and like do some things, but it's not as easy as that. Japanese names, yeah, some kira kira name. Okay, that's Keisei, okay? I think that's my favorite group because it's the most useful group. Now let's look at Kai. So Kai number 4 are compound ideographs. Let me put that on the dictionary as well. Compound ideographs, making a kanji up of meaningful parts. So interestingly, Kai, not such a huge group, big enough, okay? Kai, big enough, by no means the majority. But it's what most people think how kanji work when they first learn them. So, for example, like maybe the easiest example for Kai is Yasumu, where you have a person and a tree. And I think basically the origin of that kanji would be, you know, having a person rest by a tree, Yasumu, something like that. And I think most people, when they learn kanji, they think that's how they all work. They think you take a radical, you put them together, it makes sense, right? So like person and tree, like a person maybe resting by a tree. This is what people probably think is most kanji work like. But it's not really the case. The human torch, there you go, perfect. So kai kanji are that group where actually you take the parts of it and you get the meaning of the kanji. Not a huge group. There's a significant amount of them, but by no means as many as Keisei, which make up the majority of them. So Kai, that's number 4. Let's talk about the weird ones. 5 and 6 are kind of weird, and I'm not sure. So, first, let's look at Tenchu. Okay, Tenchu kanji. Applying an extended meaning to a kanji. There you go. So Tenchu are what is agreed to be the smallest group. Tenchu is like the smallest group linguists agree on, and it's still kind of debated what they're about. So some say it's simply the process of like, let me actually read my notes. Simply, okay. Call refer to user method rather than a creation method. Yeah, so, wait, what is this? Opposite of Gaijin, Naijin, yeah, Naijin. You can say that, Naijin. I think people would understand. Opposite of Gaijin. Or is it actually, no, it's actually a word. Is it actually a word? Now I'm not sure anymore whether Naijin is a word or not. It's not, but it should be. Let's agree that it should be, probably. So, Tenchu is a bit of a weird one. For example, in my notes, I have written down, like, ko, where, you know, basically you get, let me get my pen again. In my notes, what I have written as an example is the kanji for old and the kanji for think, which are both kind of read as ko, right? So this is ko and this is think, and the other one for old you get like this by adding the spoon. There you go. Wow, that's a lot. Naiji. Uchibito. Wow. What is that? Where did you get that from? Nitsugi. Wow. There's a lot of readings in there that I don't know. So so these two. Did I mess up the reading of? I think I messed up. Yeah, I messed up the thingy. I messed up this guy. There we go. It's like this. There you go, kangaeru. I think now it's correct. Do not know it, lol, including me. Yeah, that one, like tenchu is a bit of a weird one. So this is where like they think that maybe ro and ko, they're kind of related because of something. So I can't really go too deep into it. I want to mention it because it is officially part of Rikusho, but also it's very obscure and not really understand. Is the stream being archived? Yeah, I'll definitely archive this. It'll be on YouTube eventually. It's really hard to say right now because we're backed up on YouTube because Rocking is so busy, but it will be there. Also, I'll make a highlight of this whole stream so that it stays on Twitch indefinitely. So don't worry about it. Last group, Kasha. Let me actually read through Kasha a little bit. So Kasha is like borrowing kanji or kanji reading. So Kasha. There it is. Kasha means yeah, borrowing a kanji with the same pronunciation to write a similar sounding word. So the example that I've written down, one of the mysteries, yeah, there you go. So it's really hard to find good information about tenchu. It's in there, it's part of the list, but it's really strange. So I'm mentioning it, but I can't really like, you know, unravel the mystery for you, sadly. So there you go. Oh, by the way, finding Rikusho information is also kind of difficult because on the so on the English Wikipedia, the Rikusho entry is, I think, non-existent or really small. But on Japanese Wikipedia, you can actually read up on Rikusho a little bit. So there you go. I mean, it's no wonder. It's very obscure. Kasha reading is a method of like borrowing stuff. So the example that I've written down here is ware, where you get, you know, ware like this. Ware is the example that I've got here. So apparently ware used to be a character that signified some kind of spear, right? But it was adopted to the word I, ware. Okay, so you take this kanji that apparently sounded somehow similar and it meant something else at first, but then you just sort of gave it a new meaning. And apparently this is also a way how like new keisei kanji could then be created. An example would be, so according to my notes, right? I hope my notes are correct. I tried to research this pretty well, but yeah. According to my notes, something like mitomeru, which is like this. That last stroke is way out there. Motomeru, something like motomeru, like this guy here, used to be a type of fur coat actually called kowagoromo. Okay, so apparently this used to be kowagoromo. Now we're really obscure. Now this is stuff that Japanese people probably don't know about, but yeah. Kowagoromo. So apparently this used to be some type of fur coat, but then later was adopted into motomeru, and a new character was created, namely this guy, which would then take on the original meaning of the fur coat, this guy here, by integrating the actual, you know, the actual clothing radical into it. So you basically got this new keisei kanji. It took over the reading from kyu motomeru, right? It took over this reading as a keisei kanji, and the koromo radical was added to give the meaning. So this is basically kasha. It's basically borrowing characters for their reading, kind of like that. So that's kasha. It's big, and as you can see, so like 5 and 6 are big messes, and let's not get too deep into them. 1, 2, 3, and 4 are fairly straightforward and really cool to know about. 5 and 6 are, I guess, whatever the rest is. And with that, we're done. Ladies and gentlemen, the big, huge kanji stream that I thought was gonna be an hour and a half max turned out to be 2.5 hours of me rambling on about kanji, going through my document that I wrote, that I copied together through Wikipedia and the power of Control C, Control V, my 7-page document and an article. And here we are at the end of it all. If you have questions, now is the time. We slowed you down a bit. Just a bit, actually. It wasn't bad. It was mostly just me talking, to be honest. So there you go. That's it. That's my big kanji roundup. I hope you learned something. I think even some Japanese viewers today may have learned something. Not to pat my own back. Well, all research is 大拍手。はい。まあ、それで、一応、今日、話したかったこう話題はこれで全部で、ね、見てくれて本当にありがとう。